Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, Sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Hi, welcome to the Living in Partnership with Spirit show. I'm Ingrid Turner, your host. So happy to be here. So happy to have you here with me. So today is our monthly special show where I have several guests come on and dive in on an in-depth topic. Today we're talking about spirituality and entrepreneurship, spiritual entrepreneurs, spiritual business owners, that kind of thing. So just to backtrack a little bit, this show, we call it Living in Partnership with Spirit because we are diving into the many ways we live and work and commune with Spirit in our daily lives, either in the woo or out of the woo. My name is Ingrid Turner, your host. I'm a psychic, a spiritual medium, a teacher. You can find me on the World Wide Web. My website is ingridhturner.com, ingridhturner.com. You can learn more about me there and book some time with me if you want. And you can also find me on Facebook. You can join our group. It's called Living in Partnership with Spirit, so it's the same name as the show. You can pop that into Facebook search, and it'll come right up for you. So on this show, as I said earlier, we cover a lot of the woo. We dive into topics about spirit, about ourselves, about our spirituality. We do readings on this show. We do education. I try and really help you understand spirit and connect with spirit. And I bring through messages from spirit that I then dive into and dissect and help bring out to you through this medium. But I think it's important to talk about the nuts and bolts of life too. Many of us, more and more of us spiritual wooey types are not functioning anymore in the 9-to-5 job. Sitting in a cubicle is no longer working for us. And we're realizing that we have to do something different. It's not a choice. It's not I don't want to work. It's I can't do this kind of work anymore. I cannot stay in this box. I have to get out of my box. People are, and you'll hear from our guests in a couple of minutes. I'm sure they're going to tell you about the people who they run into who leave stable, quote, stable, unquote, lucrative careers because they have to get out and they have to follow their purpose and they're purpose driven. And the reason is because the world is waking up. The planet is waking up. The universe is waking up. We're starting to come to life. We're starting to come into our spirituality and understand our divinity in a way that we haven't before in recent recorded history. So what's happening? We're stepping up and going, I have a purpose here and I have to do it. And the way that we have to do it is in a way where we can function in the real world. So what does that mean then? That means starting a business, starting a collective, figuring out how to teach or read or, even if it's, a nonprofit organization, something in the vein of spirituality is following a purpose, a dream with that spirit intention, with that heart intention. We've got to do that. So many people. So I hope if you're listening today, whether you are already in the zone with your business, you're working on your business and you just want to hear about some tips on how you can just do better and reach more people and inject spirit even deeper into your business, or if you're brand new to it and you're just starting out and going, I don't even know what to do, because being a spiritual entrepreneur, a spiritual business owner, there are some differences to someone who is not so spirit directed, not so focused and engrossed in their own spirituality. There's a different way of doing it. There's a different way to achieve success. And if you're thinking about your spiritual business, and again, this could be anything. It could be art, writing, teaching, a traditional, on the outside, a traditional business model with that spirit intention. If you're thinking, I've got to get out of my 9-to-5, or I've got to get out of what I'm doing because you're being called, summoned even to the next step, to that expansion and pursuing your dream, your passion, what you feel like you're here to do, this show is for you. Tracy and Gina are here to talk about people they interact with, the challenges they face, and give you some advice. And we're also going to open this up for calls at the end of the show. So we're not going to be doing psychic readings today. I will not be doing mini readings, but if you have questions for Gina and Tracy, and I hope you take this opportunity to ask them questions and use this platform, because there's a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge there that is, we're not going to have time to even scratch the surface. So if you have questions, don't hesitate, don't be shy, please call in. The number to call is 657-383-1895, and then you press 1 to get in line, to get in the queue. Okay, so without further ado, I want to bring on Tracy and Gina, and I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what they do. So Tracy Principi, welcome.
Hey, Ingrid, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here today with you guys. So, yes, I'm a spiritual psychic business coach, and I like to call myself a mindset maven, but my niche is really helping those spiritual entrepreneurs, the newer spiritual entrepreneurs, when you're just stepping into your purpose and really trying to understand what that looks like. I really help bridge that gap from where you are now to where you want to be, because sometimes that looks really scary when you can't see that path. And
I love mindset maven. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, that was great.
Yeah, so I work heavily on mindset because, as I'm sure we've all experienced, those mindset issues that come up, especially in the beginning when you're just starting out, all the doubt, the fear, just that can really overtake what you want to do, and you don't want to lose sight of your purpose by going down the rabbit hole of fear and doubt and all those things that can take control. So really really shifting that for people, getting them a strong mindset to do this, because it's that's what it takes sometimes.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. That's wonderful. Mindset maven. I'm just in love with that. Please keep using that. Put that everywhere. Definitely. I think that's brilliant. So, Tracy, how can people get in touch with you? Where can they find you on the World Wide Web?
My website is www.healingallbeings.com. That's healingallbeings, BEINGS. And then I also have a Facebook group called Spiritual Entrepreneurs Success Mindset, or Tracy Principi Intuitive Coach is my business page on Facebook.
Okay, great. You're all over the place. Fantastic. Thank you, Tracy. Gina Gomez, welcome.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me. So my background, in short, is I am a business coach, a certified life coach, and a member of the Forbes Coaches Council. I have a background in corporate America, where I spent a good part, I like to call it my past life, where I spent a good part of my early career, and used my results-oriented business philosophy and what I would like to consider a knack for developing relationships to help others achieve and exceed their own goals, whether they be personal, professional, or a combination, so that they can live up to their own true potential. So because of that, I've had the great opportunity to coach talent and professionals in business and entertainment, like I said earlier, corporate executives, small business owners, artists, teachers, and then I started working with spiritual entrepreneurs, which is a funny but much longer story for another time, how I got into it, but it's turned into one of my most fun experiences in my career as well.
Oh, great. Gina, how can people find you?
Two ways in the easiest way. One is my website, and that is Gina, Gina Gomez, GOMEZ.com, and then the other is I'm all over different places of social media. I use the same handle for everything, including Facebook, and it is IAM Gina, Gina Gomez, GOMEZ. So I am Gina Gomez, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all those.
Oh, fantastic. That's easy. Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for coming on and being on today. I'm super, super excited to have you and dive in, because this is a subject that is near and dear to all of our hearts. So thank you so much for taking the time to come and be with us and talk through spiritual entrepreneurship, because as Tracy mentioned, it can be a scary journey, especially when you're taking that first step. So I want to ask I'll throw some questions out there and we'll see where the conversation takes us. But my first question really for you two both is, I want to know what spiritual entrepreneurship really means to you. What does a spiritual business look like, or different, what kind of, put a box around it for me, compared to sort of a regular old business or a regular in the world entrepreneurship. Tracy, will you start?
Sure. Wow. Yeah. So that's a great question, and it encompasses so much, but I'll try to put it all together. It's a calling, right? It's a yearning. It's this calling, and that feeling doesn't go away. And it's this feeling of, well, for one thing, I'm a personal development junkie, and I always kind of have been. So I've always I think I started off 20 years ago with like Tony Robbins and Wayne Dyer. So, those types of things. If you look at your life and you're kind of like that person that started a path that was maybe a little bit different from other people. And then that yearning and calling of never quite being satisfied. I have a corporate background. I've had other businesses that I've owned, but I was constantly changing jobs and changing businesses, and I was like, really, why do I do this when everybody else is just sitting in their job and they're cool, and I'm over here job hopping every year. And then started a business and started another one. And I always thought that was strange, but it's not. It's part of your journey and your path, and that yearning and that feeling, that calling that is leading you, to where you are now, right? Or where you want to be. You're always growing. You're not okay with the status quo. And you're not afraid to take risks. You're a little bit rebellious. You don't really care what other people think, and you do have a sense of intuition, even for those that might doubt their abilities, because I certainly did at times. Absolutely, I doubted my abilities, but you have a different sense of being or intuition or some connection that makes you a little bit different from most people, right? And that is the awakening. That is who we are. And that's what we're here to do. And so, you understand on some level that consciousness, how to consciously create, right? How to co-create.
Right.
Yeah. And so that, I know that was a mouthful, but
that's the nutshell, right? That's the box.
That's the nutshell of, that yearning. Really, it's that yearning and feeling of never being satisfied. I always thought there was something wrong with me, but now, I realize, no, this has led me to where I am now.
Yeah, you were being pulled hard.
Yeah.
By source, by creation. Yeah. So that's really good. That's the way you differentiate sort of, like you talked about how you have owned several businesses in your time, and you kept kind of like changing it up and, not really settling down even in your business. So when it comes to spiritual entrepreneurship, it's that calling. When you find it, like you found yours, you finally like kind of coasting the place. But oh, finally, here it is. Then you're on barreling forward, right, without any questioning or hesitation. Would that sum it up nicely?
Yeah,
Okay.
Exactly, because it has all led me up to this, to where I am now, right? So I had to go do the corporate thing, and then I had to say, okay, well, maybe I could start my own business. I don't know what that is or what that looks like, but I'm going to try something, right? And that was great for a while, but now I've grown some more, and so I'm continuing my growth process, and that's developing into another business. And so it's that constant development and following. I always, and then following that intuition, right? So it's a process. It's a process, and everybody's process is different.
Right. Yeah,
you know,
that's a great answer. Thank you.
Yeah, ultimately it comes down to that yearning or calling deep inside, and that's what I hear from most people and clients. It's this calling and yearning from like in your gut, you know, down in your gut.
Yeah. So Gina, same question for you. I'd like to hear you add on to that, or kind of put your own sort of put that in your own container on that. What do you feel like spiritual business looks like compared to regular old business? You know, a spiritual entrepreneur versus a quote regular unquote entrepreneur. And I don't mean to be make anybody less than, but I feel like there's a difference in energy, and I'd love to hear from you what you feel like that is, what you've seen.
Sure, because I do think that there's an evolution that's taking place. I think there's still a lot of work to do, but I do see a shift from when I used to be in corporate. So to me, spiritual entrepreneurship is the people who focus on the spiritual offering, whether it's a product or a service. So this can be healers, psychics, you know, people in the woo, so to speak. It can feel like a calling, but I've also worked with people where it doesn't necessarily feel like a calling during the process. It can feel like an accident or being led. And suddenly when they're in it, they're like, I don't know how this happened. But then they're super happy that it happened. So it can also mean running your business from a place of putting people, meaning customers, colleagues, and employees first. Not meaning that you don't aim to make money in business, but you run the business from the point of view of we versus me. In fact, if you think, you know, to some more traditional brands, not so much spiritual, but can show you an example of some socially conscious brands like Tom's, it gives you an idea. It's not always a spiritual offering, but it can be. So you can look at it from both sides, from the corporate side and spiritual entrepreneurship side, but also in traditional businesses, because it's a business, not a friendship. But there's a balance to be found, and if you can look at how to make it a winning situation for everyone involved, you can still increase profit, loyalty, and sales, whether it's a spiritual business, a corporate business, a socially conscious business, or something, you know, that's even different, or a combination of those things.
Right. I think that's really true. I think that's a really good point too that you make, Gina, is when we think spiritual business, we tend to think woo, like, oh, you're a psychic, or you're a spiritual teacher, or, you know, what have you, whatever it is. But that it's that coming from that place of spirit, that package can look, you know, very very traditional. The package can look traditional and still be still fall into what we're talking about with that spiritual entrepreneurship. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Great answers, you two. I just love that. I love hearing your perspectives and putting it all together. So my next question is, I wanted to hear about some of the struggles that you've identified when working with spiritual entrepreneurs or spiritual business owners, either, you know, in the woo or even in the more traditional set, because neither of those routes, the traditional looking one with the heart focus or the woo, you know, out in your face woo, neither of those are easy in our culture, because Gina, like you said, we are shifting and transforming, but there's still a long way to go. I think a lot of what I know what I have faced is really having difficulty with identity, and also with knowing how to balance that, like balance the profit and the heart, the profit and the spirit, because we do need to make a living, and the way to really truly live our spiritual lifestyle is to make it a career, right? Because this is what you got to do. So I'm wondering if you could talk about maybe the top three, you know, struggles that you've identified working with people. And let's mix it up. Gina, why don't you kick us off for this one?
Sure. I love this question because it's such an important question, an important topic. So the first thing I see is not making money. So a lot of entrepreneurs who work from the spiritual side tend to fall on one end of the spectrum or the other. So they either have a luxury price model with a market that can't afford what's being offered, or they charge too little because they're uncomfortable asking for money. So you got to find the sweet spot and figure out, you know, how to be able to ask for money, and worthiness comes into that, which would be the second thing. It comes up a lot. Putting yourself out there can be scary, and putting yourself out there when you've been taught that what you're doing isn't a real job, because that's what a lot of people I work with who come from a spiritual background or have a spiritual-based business have had some kind of experience where they were taught that this was not an acceptable career choice or career path. So when that happens, it can feel paralyzing, and it can impact the ability to get the work done, also to be consistent, and then it ultimately impacts your results. So a lot of clients that I work with who do get results, they get the results because they're finally feeling supported, and that gives them the confidence to take risks and to take that consistent action that every business needs in order to find that sweet spot that I just mentioned earlier. And then the third thing I would say is inconsistency. When there's no consistency or strategy, it's really hard for people to buy from you. And it's frustrating when someone talks about wanting to be successful but doesn't do the work because energetically they may not be, quote unquote, feeling it, or they're trusting the universe to do it point of view. I always joke and say that my left brain has a very big mouth because she does, and she takes over all the time. But imagine, from a practical point of view, imagine if every business ran the same way. There is a trust component, but you still have to take action. So you've got to find that balance, but also find a way to manage it either through, adjusting business hours or practice, so that if you need time to energetically step in and out of your business, that you have that flexibility and a business model set up so that it's consistent, because inconsistency will hurt your business, and eventually it's going to hurt your bank account.
Right. That's a really good point. And you know what that brings up for me, Gina, is scheduling in me time. Time to, and really, like you would schedule something with a client, schedule time for yourself so that you can get that energetic refill, and not deplete yourself and then have it take away from the business because you're going, I cannot work these hours today. I've got too much going on. So being disciplined in your own self-care, I think is really important too. Yeah.
I agree. And if you have to take, an hour or two every day to block out time, then do that, because that's going to get you a better result than you feeling like you're depleted and then you cancel an appointment at the last minute. People remember that.
Yep.
Regardless of the reason, they just remember that you showed up late or that you didn't show up at all. And that's not good for business.
That's true. That makes me feel stressed too. I'm like, I think I need to get some me time.
But how much better do you feel when you schedule that time and you know that you've got that break to replenish and to recover? And then you show up differently for a client, and that's what they remember in that experience. Is how present you were.
Well, for me, I don't start my day until 11 a.m. I give myself the mornings, and I, could maybe get more out of my day if I started, started at 9 a.m. or what have you. But I'm with you. It's more important to schedule in the break time, the re-energizing time. So I think that's really important, and that's really important for people in the spiritual business, especially on the woo side, to hear and to accept that that's okay to give themselves that, because it's going to help them in the long run.
I agree.
So
I would much rather have. You're welcome. You're very welcome.
You'd much rather have what?
I was just going to say, I would much rather have someone say, I work these hours than to have somebody cancel at the last minute or not show up and send me a message after and tell me that something came up, because that also affects whether or not I'm going to refer business to you. So if you need to take time for yourself, schedule that in and take that time for yourself, rather than saying I'm going to push as hard as I can, because it will come back and hurt you.
Yes, it will. Absolutely. Thank you, Gina. Tracy, what about you? Struggles that you've identified? Top 3.
Yeah. Okay. So I think one of the biggest ones, and this really is going to encompass the other ones, is fear of failure. And so I really see this in so many people, and it's about, again, ignoring that inner chatter that discourages you from taking action. And that can show up. One of the biggest ways that shows up is self-sabotage. And so I really see spiritual entrepreneurs struggling with that they're just, those self-sabotaging behaviors that they might not even be fully conscious of, right? So it can manifest in a lot of different ways. And, the self-doubt, the self-worth, the money mindset, the issues around that. Self-sabotage is comparing yourself to others, right? So I see a lot of people comparing themselves to other people that are successful. And, I mean, we're all on Facebook. We see, hey, I made $7 million, or I had a 7-figure day today or whatever, right? And do you want to know how to do that too? Well, sign up for my ebook or course or whatever, and you can do that too. And a lot of new spiritual entrepreneurs fall for that shiny object syndrome. And they think they need more courses, more certifications, all these different things, that they fall into that trap in the beginning that doesn't necessarily lead to a successful business or more clients or more money. In fact, it can actually get really discouraging if they've done a lot of things and spent a lot of money and haven't had any results. And so I see a lot of that, a lot of new entrepreneurs fall in that trap of, the shiny object syndrome or comparing themselves to other people. And so really, again, that comes down to that energy of trusting yourself, trusting the process, co-creating with the universe. It's almost more beneficial to hire a coach or a mentor first than taking courses and classes, because that money is better spent one-on-one with a coach or a mentor that can really, set you up with the processes and procedures of starting a business, and getting over those initial fears of getting visible or, putting things together that work. Because, so I guess the third thing is a lot of entrepreneurs will say, well, I tried to post in Facebook groups, or I did this or I did that, and nothing worked. So they get discouraged. But ultimately what happens is they didn't really have a strategy, or, they didn't know what to do. So they were kind of just, out there trying different things to see what sticks. And so trying different things to see what sticks isn't really a strategy. So the struggle is coming up with a strategy that's going to work for you and keep you inspired, keep you motivated, right? If we do these things and they're not working, it disempowers us, it demotivates us. We start comparing, well, these people they're doing it and it's working for them. Why isn't it working? And so so I see the spiritual entrepreneurs that are struggling on their own with no help. It's very, very difficult to get to where you want to be. Unless you're really good, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and even have, like Tracy, you have a marketing background, and Gina, you have a business background. Even when you have a background in, I'm sure, I know that both of you have had help in the past. And Tracy, you talk about hiring a coach and, getting mentorship like that. Even if you have a background in business, marketing, or what have you, you don't have good, what's the word I'm looking for? Language is escaping me. Perspective. We don't have good perspective on our own stuff, let alone on our own business.
Right.
So I love that you say support, and find a mentor, find someone who can give you that perspective and help you carve out that path for yourself. Because it's very hard to do on your own, especially when you're so passionate and so scared.
Exactly. And my marketing background in traditional corporate, PR, marketing, business development, that did not transfer over into this online spiritual world. So that background didn't help me at all, because, I wrote and I did marketing for companies, but writing about yourself, for yourself, in a connection-based business, whereas in my corporate life, I just shot stuff out there that was all BS anyway, probably,
Yeah,
and
right.
So actually connecting and establishing relationships, which I was not, in hindsight, that's not what I was doing in corporate America, is a totally different animal. So my background, well, I'm sure it helped me in some ways, but in that connection-based world of writing and putting yourself out there and connecting, is a totally different, totally different animal. So, and a lot of us don't know how to do that. We have to learn how to do that.
Right, absolutely. Thank you. Those are such great answers. And I bet there's, we could probably talk about this one question for the next half an hour, but I'm going to move on to the flip side of the coin. I'd love to know, based on what you've seen people struggle with and what you've seen people be successful at and how they've gotten there, what are some pieces of solid advice for spiritual entrepreneurs, out there doing the grind, and the people dreaming of starting their own spiritual business, even if they don't know what that might be yet, like understanding that this is the direction they need to go? What would you say to people out there or ready to into the and put themselves out there? 3 pieces of advice. Let's make it 3.
This is such a good question. Who do you want to start with?
Yeah, it's a good guy. I just plan. Somebody will talk. Tracy, why don't you kick us off on this one?
Yeah. Okay. So 3 pieces of advice. I would say, the first one is don't ever lose sight of your vision. As long as you never lose sight of your vision, you're going to have the motivation, the desire to keep going, right? And sometimes that's all we can do. All we can do is just keep going. But in other words, keep your eye on the prize. Because when we lose sight of our vision and we lose sight of that prize, that's when people fall away and disappear. And I see that a lot too. People will say, this isn't working. I got to go get a job. I got to go back to work. And they disappear. In fact, that happened with my own coach. She went back to her 9-to-5 job. And so, so it's like you lost sight of your vision. But as long as you always have your vision in front of you and you keep your eye on that prize, your only choice is to keep going. And secondly is, whatever it takes, don't undervalue yourself. Don't undervalue your gifts. Like Gina said, your worth, your pricing. It's that ability to believe in yourself 100% that is going to keep yourself going. So whatever you have to do, whatever it takes to get that mind chatter of doubt under control, to keep the vision going and not undervalue your gifts and what you're capable of, that power that you have within you. Don't forget, you have that power within you. And then thirdly, ultimately you're right where you're supposed to be. It's where we are right now isn't where we're always going to be. This is temporary, and we all know that energy can shift very quickly, within a day or days or whatever. You can think you are stuck in a rut right in this moment, but you know how fast that can shift. And anything can happen. Anybody can come in your life. Maybe you get an opportunity. I mean, just all of those things we know because most likely we've had those experiences already, that those can shift so fast. And so hold on to that and really think about, instead of focusing on what's not working, focus on what is working, because I guarantee something is working. And so even if it doesn't seem like it is, I can guarantee you can find something that is working. So, focus on what is working and not, most of the time people focus on what isn't working. I don't have any clients. I'm not making any money. I can't, okay, well, what is working? Focus on those things that are working, even if it's small. That's how we turn things around. That's how we get more of more of what we want, right? Instead of more of what we don't want.
Yeah, and even, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind, if nothing else, are pursuing your dream when you're out there in the throes of it, working your business before you've seen the results start to come in. You're pursuing it, the results will come.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah.
You're not in a cubicle. That's the big one.
That's right.
Just out of the cubicle. Okay, Gina, 3 pieces of advice.
Oh, all right. Gosh, Tracy, this is so great. Okay, number 1, so I'm going to go with the unpopular thing, but I say it all the time because I really mean it. I think it's true. 1 is get clear on your intention. If you are looking for fame, to get rich off of passive income, or you're looking to start your own business so you don't have to work hard or so you don't have to work for someone else, find something else. Here's why. That's a lifestyle. It's not a job. Running a business is hard work, so make sure you're doing it because you really love it, and make sure you're doing, something that you really love, because you will have sleepless nights and you will have working weekends. I think one of the big misnomers is people think that when you go off and you do something on your own, that you probably have some bad days, but for the most part, everything is, rainbows and unicorns. And that would be great if that was the truth. But the truth is you still have to work. I mean, there are things that come easily, and it does make those difficult days much, much, much easier. But like what Tracy was saying is, when you get into a slump, one day is one day, and anything can change on the day. So get really clear about why you're doing this, because if you're going into it for fame or something else, you're probably not going to get the results that you want, and you're going to be probably not as happy if you think it's going to be a get-rich-quick kind of thing. The second thing is to talk to other entrepreneurs who've succeeded and get the truth about the pros and cons of being an entrepreneur. Get the good, the bad, and the ugly before you take any action, so that you know exactly what you're getting into and go into it with your eyes wide open. What I will say is when those difficult days or the slumps happen, it makes it easier when you know that this is what you've chosen and because it's something you really, really love. And then the third thing is, if you have a dream, pursue it. Worst case scenario, you'll discover that it wasn't what you wanted at all, and that gets you one step closer to figuring out what it is you really do want. So, so in short, my advice is do it. Listen to people who've done it and tell you why you shouldn't do it, and then do it anyway. So get the information. And, I think everybody should, if you have a dream, you should pursue it if that's what you want to do. I think everyone should have that opportunity. That's why I got into coaching.
I agree. Great. Thank you, Gina.
You're welcome.
So, Gina, just to kind of wrap us up here, I wonder if you have anything else that we haven't had an opportunity to cover with, our sort of canned questions, anything you would like to put out there to talk about, piece of wisdom or anything that people listening in might find of that. This is a surprise question, so if you don't have anything, that's fine.
I think I'm trying to think of what probably the most valuable piece was for me when I was shifting from corporate into something totally different. And I definitely, even though what I do has a lot of traditional business practices in it, I certainly have been in the position and the situation where people looked at me like I was crazy and, said things to me like, oh, but you make so much money, you'll never make this kind of money again, or, oh, you're not supposed to be happy because that's why they call it work. And, all these things that I heard. But here's what I want to say about that, is that if you are faced with those kinds of things, or you're worried about putting yourself out there because people are going to have opinions of you and say things about you or make fun of you, or, whatever the story is that you tell yourself, you got to get over it. Because the truth is, people are going to say, and probably are saying things about you anyway, because that's what we do in human nature is, we form opinions based on what we see or what we think we know. So if the work is really important to you, and if this is something that you really want to do, then make it about your market, make it about your customers and the people who are really there to buy what you have to offer or are interested in what you're selling or what you're offering, because that's what really matters. your tribe and the right people will show up. If you do your part, you will make money. And if you do your part and you focus on your clients and you make it, about them and their needs, you're going to get great results, and you're going to have a great career. But as soon as you start to shift it to an ego-based place, or you start to get stuck in your patterns, so really start to get to know what your patterns are. When you don't get the results you want, what's your way of handling that? And does that serve you or does it hinder you? And then use it as an opportunity to reinforce what you want and course correct on the things that you don't want.
I love that, Gina. Don't take yourself so personal. I think that's one of the, when I first started out, I had the hard with that. And for me, it was about, it was ego identity from a place that was so different, and had to peel away this ego identity that I formed over the decades, and then turn around and show who I really was, my authentic self. And it was absolutely terrifying, and it took longer than I cared to do that. So I think that's a solid, really good piece of this. Let that go and get on with the business again. Tracy, same for you. Is there any wisdom you would like to share?
Yeah, I think, this is what I always tell my clients and people that I talk to is, the number one thing that you can do for yourself is get yourself out of the way. And whatever it takes, let that higher power, let that spiritual energy guide you, because, I just see far too many people stuck with, the doubt and the fear and all these mindset issues taking control. And you've got to really surrender and get yourself out of the way and learn to co-create with that energy that is available to you right now to use for your benefit. And that is the key to success, in my opinion. One of the biggest keys to success, in my opinion, is to do whatever it takes to get yourself out of the way and co-create with that, with the universe, with that energy that's available, because that is what's going to guide you and make you successful, right? So if you can just release the control, release the hold, let that energy and trust. It's about trusting in that higher, that higher energetic field, creator, spirit, whatever you want to call it, that is, that put you on this path and is going to guide you to where you want to be. And too many people don't do that. They are still, they don't trust it enough to let go and really let that, guide them, right? They're just, it's very fear-based still. And that's where we need to, that's where we need the work, the fear-based, I don't have money, I don't have clients, this isn't working. Okay, well, let's try to trust, even if it doesn't seem like it, because everybody's looking in their physical reality. So forget the physical reality, drop that, and trust what you can't see. And that is really hard for most people to do. It takes a lot of work. It's going to take work to get to that point where you absolutely trust 100% without a doubt in something that you cannot see. That's where the magic is. And that's the only place the magic is. That's where the magic is. And if you really want to get to the magic, you let go of the other stuff, because the magic is more important than, like Gina says, I can't get visible because my makeup isn't right, or those I things. We'll just drop all that. Serve and trust, and that's where the magic is. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. And it's really interesting on this call. We've talked about two things that I think many people could see as diametrically opposing. We talked about the nuts and bolts strategy and getting up and doing the work and being consistent, and in the world. And then we're also talking about this surrender piece and this trust piece and this trust in what you cannot see, this faith. So bringing together, the need to show up in the physical world, in this world that we live in, which requires work and effort. It just does as well. Mm-hmm. And then merging with that surrender piece, the letting go piece. There's a balance there. The two are not opposites. They look like opposites. They look like completely different things. Like you're going to do one or the other, but there's a balance to be found there. And I think that that's not something you can teach people necessarily. You have to kind of guide them to find it themselves. You got to play with that, play with those two energies and find the sweet spot where those two converge. And then boom, that's the powerhouse right there. That's the powerful energy. Well, I think this has just been amazing. I've had so much fun having you two on and talking about spiritual entrepreneurship and business owners. And as you've been talking and I've been listening to you, I've been going, oh, wow. Oh, good point. so I know it's helped me tremendously just having this conversation. We do have some callers there in listen mode only. Just going to give a quick opportunity to see if anybody wants to push one and get on and ask Tracy or Gina a question about spiritual entrepreneurship. Even if you don't have a business, you haven't started a business, any question you have is okay and open and ready right now. The number is 657-383-1895, and then you press 1 to get on the show. So right now, it looks like we've got shy people, so that's okay. Why don't we, this is near and dear stuff. It's tender stuff. So Tracy, can you please tell us how we can contact you in case anyone wants to get in touch with you personally after the show?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, my website is www.healingallbeings.com, or my email is Tracy, Tracy, @healingallbeings.com. You can find me on Facebook, Tracy Principi. Feel free to connect with me there. Or I have a Facebook group called Spiritual Entrepreneurs Success Mindset, and I do a lot of fun, helpful things in that group around growing a business and, helping spiritual entrepreneurs in that group. And it's a really supportive, loving community. So feel free to find me in any of those places.
Tracy. Gina and I, how can people contact you if they want to get in touch with you directly?
I'm going to make it super easy. The easiest way is to go to my website, which is Gina, Gina Gomez, GOMEZ.com. You just go to the contact page and it'll lead you right to me. And then if it's through social media, you can contact me either through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Did I get everything? I think that's everything. And all the same handle, it's @I am Gina Gomez, and all of those will lead you to me as well. And even if it's just to send a quick note, or if you have a question or something like that, do not hesitate to reach out. I read all of my messages and respond to them, so I'm happy to help out if there's anybody who is feeling a little shy but has a question, because I've certainly been there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gina. Thank you, Tracy. You both are so fantastic. I'm so blessed to know you, and what a resource you are. So if you're listening in now or you're listening to the archive version, please reach out to these women if you feel called. They're here to serve, as we talked about here before. They're here to serve. Okay, so that's it, Tracy and Gina. I am wrapping this up for you, you guys and me and our conversation. Thank you again and again, 1,000 times for coming on. This has just been fantastic. I would like to thank my producer, Reverend Tiffany White Sage Woman of Goldilocks Productions. So she produces a number of spiritual and psychic-based shows, and through her production company, Goldilocks Productions. That's Goldie with a Y, Goldy Productions. You can find the archives of this show and all of her other shows hosted on Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker.com, and it's Spreaker.com/Goldilocks Productions. So Goldilocks with a Y. So thank you again and again, and I'm so looking forward to diving in again next week. You all have a wonderful week, and goodbye, Tracy and Gina. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ingrid.
Bye. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million, what color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay. Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.